Okay, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Okay, guys, I'm back. It's Thursday, July 30th, and amazingly, it's been the 30th all day. So, word has it tomorrow is the 31st, so the last day of the month. I don't know where July went. It's gone so fast. Anyway, I know we're not here to discuss that. We're going to get into the news. All right. Well, I hope everyone is doing well tonight. And I hope you're ready to go. I was born ready. I don't know about you, but I was born ready. So let's get into this. But first, I have a few people to thank via coffee. Lisa Farmer. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that very much. And picked up a new Patreon subscriber, but not sure if I'm going to pronounce this name correctly. Sidhai Littlejohn? I hope I'm at least close. Anyway, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. And I got some mail via snail mail. And I don't know, just seeing people's handwriting and the sweet, sweet things they say. I'm telling you, I got something from Steve G in Wisconsin. He sent a note and donation. Thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate that. And Chad M from Florida, a wonderful, encouraging note, very encouraging note and donation. I appreciate that. You people make me cry some days, but they're good tears, not bad tears. And Brenda Z from Colorado, she sent a nice letter and donation as well. And Brenda, I haven't read the entire letter yet, but it's beside my bedside table to read before I go to bed tonight. So I will get through that. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And let's just dive right into the news. Come on in. The water's fine. Well, it's not altogether fine, but it is what it is. All right, let's look at this from Donald J. Trump. He said, with universal mail-in voting, not absentee voting, which is good, 2020 will be the most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history. It will be a great embarrassment to the USA. Delay the election until people can properly, securely, and safely vote. And he's asking that as a question, but boy, he has stirred the hornet's nest. That is for sure. And he is doing what Donald Trump is very, very good at, and he is trolling. That's exactly what he's doing. You know, they've got this virus and they're trying to use that to shut down, to make, you know, to say that it's not safe to go to the polls. I mean, it's safe to do everything else, but not safe to go to the polls. And, you know, so he's saying, well, you know what? Let's just delay it until it can be properly and securely, until you can properly and securely and safely vote. He's saying, let's delay it. He's calling them on their bluff. He knows what they're doing. We all know what they're doing. And evidently, Donald Trump knows what they're doing. So that's encouraging to me, although, let me tell you, he stirred the hornet's nest, and they are buzzing and flying around like crazy, looking for someone to sting. Oh my gosh, the cats. As soon as I sit down here, they know that I'm occupied, so they use that opportunity to wreck my place. Well, they don't really wreck it, but sometimes it gets pretty close. All right, well, let's move on to this. Dr. David Samadi said allowing one doctor and one doctor only to make unilateral decisions for 350 million people while simultaneously silencing any other opinion is ludicrous and completely un-American. That's right. That is very, very well stated. Why would we allow one doctor to make unilateral decisions for 350 million people? Why? And silence any other opinion that is dissenting. I mean, that's what communist nations do, socialist nations do, not the United States. So, yeah. And Ryan Fournier says, I'm old enough to remember when Tim Tebow kneeled for God on the field and the NFL got upset because that wasn't the place for divisive displays of one's belief. And look where we are now. I guess it all depends on what those beliefs are, whether the NFL considers them divisive or not. If you're kneeling for God, well, that's divisive. If you're kneeling because you hate the United States of America, well, that's okay. Yeah. All right, well, let's go on now and look at this. Breaking news. I am hearing something that what has he got? Okay. Well, he's playing with my deerskin rug. All right. Sorry for the interruption. When you have cats or children, that's what happens. And I don't have children. But my cats, well, they behave like children. All right. Editor's note, it says Missouri AG intervenes in case against St. Louis couple who defended their home with guns. Remember them? Now, that was the couple where they lived in a very expensive home. It was in a gated neighborhood. It was private property, and the Black Lives Matter, came. They were not peacefully protesting at all, as they never seemed to be. But anyway, they were defending their homes, and they stood out front with their guns, and they were charged. Well, this attorney general in Missouri has intervened, and yeah. So let's see where they're at now. Editor's note, a previous version of this story suggested all charges were dropped against the couple. Now, legal sources in the city say that is not yet formally the case. The Missouri AG is still seeking to dismiss the case. We'll be sure to keep you updated on this breaking story as new details become available. St. Louis, Missouri, Kim Gardner, circuit attorney for St. Louis, brought charges against a local couple last month who were caught on video brandishing weapons on the porch of their mansion. Now, the Missouri Attorney General is stepping in. That's good news. Mark and Patricia McCloskey, their response to a mob of protesters tearing down the gate to a private driveway and trespassing across their yard went viral. The McCloskeys, who are both attorneys, were eating dinner on their patio when several hundred Black Lives Matter protesters tore down a gate to gain access to a private community that was clearly marked as private with no trespassing signs. Well, it doesn't matter to them. Now, they seem to be able to do anything they want now. Mark McCloskey claims that the protesters began making threats toward his wife and himself. He went in the home and retrieved a pistol and what appeared to be an AR-15. Luckily, no one was injured, and the guns that the McCloskey legally owned did the trick by keeping the protesters from causing them harm. Republican Attorney General Eric Schmidt is intervening in State Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner's legal action against Mark and Patricia McCloskey for brandishing a rifle. The McCloskeys took up arms when extreme anarchist demonstrators gathered outside their home on June 28th. The weapon was confiscated after St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department searched the property. Citizens shouldn't be targeted for exercising their Second Amendment right to self-defense, and this is Eric Schmidt, the Attorney General. STL prosecutor Kim Gardner is engaged in a political prosecution. Well, evidently, it makes no sense at all. As AG, I'm entering the case seeking a dismissal and defend all Missourians' right to protect their lives and properties. Well, yeah, that's why people have guns. For when somebody tears down the gate to your private residence and is milling about on your yard yelling threats to you. When else would you brandish a weapon? I don't think that they wanted to invite them in. The AG released a video on Twitter where he stated, as Missouri's chief law enforcement officer, I simply will not stand by while Missouri laws are being ignored. That is why I'm entering the case in terms of seeking the dismissal of the case to protect the rights of Missourians to defend themselves in their property. under Missouri's Castle Doctrine. We provided a breakdown of the Missouri laws around self-defense in a previous article, which will be shared again below, and I don't think we need to go into that, but I am delighted that somebody is taking up their cause, because that was absolutely ludicrous, and it was obviously a political ploy. They didn't do anything wrong. In the charging documents against Patricia McCloskey, Assistant Circuit Attorney Chris Hinckley stated that the gun she waved at protesters was readily capable of lethal use. Yeah. Why else would you have a gun? However, crime lab experts reassembled the gun and wrote that it was readily capable of according to the St. Louis Police Crime Lab, when the gun arrived at the lab, it was deemed inoperable. However, crime lab experts reassembled the gun and wrote that it was readily capable of lethal use. In Missouri, police and prosecutors must prove that a weapon is readily capable of lethal use when it is used in the type of crime with which the McCloskeys have been charged. While the gun was at their crime lab, staff members field stripped the handgun and found that poor grammar. They had originally assembled it incorrectly. All right, so yeah, and where are we here? I don't think we need to read any more of this. So they're seeking to have it dismissed. I wanted to give you an update on that because I think everybody was outraged when they saw what happened to this couple. It's unconscionable, really. I can't imagine that couple would have been found guilty of anything. These people were on private property, their property, the McCloskeys' property, and they were threatening. Why else would you brandish a gun? They were making sure that they didn't get in that house. And I'm sure they really didn't want graffiti all over their mansion walls either, because that would have been the other thing they would have done. All right, so let's move on from that. And let's move to this. Major Patriot says, same people that say the government should not make decisions about a woman's body by denying them access to abortions are denying thousands of sick and dying people access to HCQ. Yeah, funny how that works, isn't it? Same people. But they want to deny, if you've got COVID, they want to deny you the right to a cure. But then they scream bloody murder if anyone tries to limit their bodily choices in terms of abortion. Kind of hypocritical, no? And Lino, if you wear a mask in a car while you drive alone, you are demented and deserve to be forcibly confined in a mental hospital. I would agree with that. And I cannot tell you how many people I see driving down the road with a mask. And I'm thinking, you're alone in your own car. Do you just enjoy wearing a mask, or are you virtue signaling, or are you just not all there? I think it looks ridiculous, personally. Now, if you're riding in a car with other people and you are in one of those age brackets that's vulnerable, well, knock yourself out, but it does look odd. And let's look at this. All right, this by Blonderella Woke. I like that name. I think with HCQ, big tech censorship, and the left's tricks on and narratives failing, I sense a false flag event coming on. Remember when NORAD was conducting training exercises on September 11th, 2001? Well, Canadian and American fighter jets to conduct training exercise over Toronto Thursday. That was today. What are they doing that for? Over Toronto? Really? A little odd, don't you think? I think it's odd. And we know how those training exercises have a way of coming in handy. Not just tend to happen when there's training exercises happening, but usually the things that they train for just seem to happen not too far in the distant future. So not sure what they have planned or what they are trying to prove, but there you go. I don't know if we have any listeners from Toronto. I think most of our listeners are from the States. We've got several countries represented here, but well, and we do have Canadians, so it's not out of the, I wouldn't be outrageously surprised if there was people from Toronto listening, and if there are, please let us know if you saw any of this or experienced any of it. I would like to know. This exercise is scheduled to take place from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., so that would have been today, from 11 to 1 over Toronto, involving the U.S. and Canadian military. Odd? I think it's odd. Maybe not, but I think it is. All right, and let's look at this. Mugshot of Antifa hoodlum Sarah Pugh, 38, arrested in Portland for hate crimes with previous convictions for arson and urinating on police. Nice, nice. Pugh abandoned her 2 children in Indiana to seek the Antifa drug culture in Portland, participating in numerous violent events. And let's take a look at Sarah. Yikes. And she has 2 children that she abandoned to run with Antifa. Yeah, she looks like the type that would urinate on a cop. I would just, if she urinated on me, I would just want to, burn my skin off. Well, maybe not, but I'd sure take a very hot bath and burn the clothes that I was wearing. Seriously. All right, now this is Dr. Simone Gold. Breaking: President Trump directs the FCC to implement an executive order preventing online censorship and to limit Section 230 immunity for social media companies. Now, look at the smile on these 2 guys. Let me make it bigger for you tiny phone people. Always thinking about you. I can't forsake my tiny phone people. All right. Look at the smiles. Those are big smiles. And I think that this is wonderful. Wonderful. Now, let's see if it makes any difference. Statement from the press secretary regarding the implementation of, this executive order. On Monday, the Department of Commerce, as directed by President Donald J. Trump's executive order on preventing online censorship. This is wonderful news. All right, and we're moving on. We're trying to go a little bit faster tonight because I'm getting a late start and I want to get in as much as I can with one video. Maybe tomorrow I'll do more than one, but tonight, just one. All right, let's look at this. Okay, this was sent to me by my friend Donna in Canada here, and she was shaking her head over this, and I've got to shake mine too, because Oxford University to cut 40% of oncology experts amid claim it now sees cancer as low priority. I bet it's not low priority to those who have cancer. What is this about? This makes no sense to me. Oxford University is to cut 40% of its oncology experts in a restructuring amid claims the institution now sees cancer research as low priority. Staff at the university's Department of Oncology have been told that 81 roles will be vacated by Christmas due to a shortfall in external funding. The devastating move will affect principal investigators, research support groups, scientific research facilities, and administration and finance at the world's leading institution. Senior researcher Anderson Ryan, who has worked at the clinic for more than a decade, said it was a kick in the teeth to scientists who have dedicated their lives to helping people. Sadly, this news suggests that the university sees cancer research as a low priority for its own investment going forward, and I am concerned that this may eventually undermine Oxford's ambition to remain the premier place in the world for medical research, he said. Oxford is supposed to be world leading, not penny pinching. In 2 years' time, this will come back to bite us. Professor Ryan said that COVID-19 crisis has contributed to the decision to make redundancies. However, the university said the pandemic had nothing to do with the cuts, and staff were informed about the restructuring on February 27th. The Department of Oncology employs 400 staff and more than 120 postgraduate students, both clinical and non-clinical, and is one of the largest departments within the University of Oxford's Medical Science Division. The university said in a statement, Oxford University Department of Oncology is proposing changes to its structure to reflect an ongoing shortfall in external funding for the department and has identified the need to reduce staff numbers. Like all academic departments, oncology obtains a significant proportion of its funding from grants for specific research projects, which can lead to significant fluctuations over time. The decision to restructure has been made in line with the department's new scientific strategy to focus more on key areas of cancer research. So I'm not going to go through and read all this, but it kind of makes me wonder if they know something that we don't know yet. Is there a cure on the horizon? I just think it's odd that they cut 40% of cancer research, and says it's not a high priority anymore. It's in fact, they consider it a low priority. I think that's odd. Now, maybe I'm completely off base, and I could be, but it crossed my mind. So I don't know, but I do find that very odd. In fact, I find a lot of things odd these days. Now, let's look at this. You may have seen this on social media. It's hard to believe. Very hard to believe. You may have seen this already, but this unhinged, mask-wearing woman screams in small children's faces, "I hope you all die." And that's because the woman wasn't wearing a mask. She had a medical condition. And the children, apparently under a certain age, don't have to wear a mask. It's not recommended. Now, I didn't know that, but it wouldn't surprise me. It says, "What in the world is happening to us?" I don't know. It's like this demon entity has entered all these people. I mean, I'm being facetious, but it's just strange. People are acting so weird and hostile. My gosh. People around here even, and you know how notoriously polite Canadians are. I mean, we apologize for everything, but we're being rude to people over stupid things like masks and going down, not following arrows properly or whatever. All right, well, let's look at this. An unidentified woman is going viral for her abhorrent behavior towards a mother and 2 young children at what appears to be a grocery store. In a video making its round on social media Wednesday, an elderly masked woman can be seen approaching what appears to be a young mother and her 2 children. The video picks up as the mother can be heard defending her children from the woman. "They're not supposed to wear them," the mother can be heard saying, in apparent defense of her children not wearing masks. The elderly woman fires back, "That's not true," shaking her head. The young mother insists that the children aren't required to wear masks, but the elderly woman is not fazed by her protestations. The elderly woman can then be seen looking down at one of the children, who is staring at the woman with apparent concern and says, "I hope you all die." The mother responds, "You're being ridiculous. You take care of yourself. Bye." The elderly woman isn't done yet. As she walks away with her hands clasped behind her back, she says it again, "I hope you all die because you're going to kill me and my husband," she shouts. Yes, I know. According to WGGL TV, the incident took place in a Walmart store in Gainesville. Well, naturally, where else would it take place? Gainesville, Georgia, earlier this month. The station identified the young woman as Desiree Alice Van Sickle, a young mother of 3. When it all ended, I just walked off and was shaking on the inside, and I started crying because I was so upset, she told the station. The elderly woman was attacking the people that were coming in without masks, and everyone was just kind of ignoring her and walking on and going about their business. But I just didn't feel that it was right that she was wishing death upon people for not wearing a mask. Van Sickle said she arrived at the store with her children and didn't realize she was without a mask. Okay, I thought she had a medical condition. Maybe that was another one. There was a man at the door who said, if you have a mask, can you please put your mask on? And we didn't have any with us, but he didn't say that we couldn't come in, she recalled. I prayed that she just went home and she thought about her actions and what she said, and that she and what she did affected a lot of people, Van Sickle concluded. Well, let's watch the video. All right.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Oh, hang on. I'm trying to get a full screen here, and it says full screen not available. So let's go to YouTube so I can make it a full screen for my tiny phone people who deserve to watch it. They're people too. Just because they have a tiny phone doesn't make them tiny people. No, they're giants, just with tiny phones. All right, here we go.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. He was so hard. Everybody did not wear them. So why would I let them wear them? Why? You're holding all the time. You take care of yourself. Fine. That's such a great thing to do. I wear a mask. Yeah, good for you, fine.
You believe that? I found that hard to believe. She says, I hope you all die. And then she says it again. I hope you all die because you're killing me and my husband. Well, you're wearing a mask, lady, so why should it affect you? I mean, they tell us that the masks protect us, right? So if you're believing that, which evidently you've taken it to heart, well, then you should be perfectly fine and safe. I don't know, but that's where we're at. Not just in the States, but Canada and possibly other places. Who knows? All right, let's go back now, because there's more. And look at this. This is a sad story. I think it's sad. I think everything is sad, really. Bakery refused to sell World War II pensioner bread because she only had dirty cash. A 94-year-old woman who lived through World War II was denied a loaf of bread because she could only pay in cash. Edna Dalchin, a former hosiery worker who lives in the Basford suburb of Nottingham, has never had a bank card and pays for all of her groceries with hard currency. When Mrs. Dalchin went to Bird's Bakery in the nearby village of Arnold, she was told to put her food back because they are not accepting dirty cash due to the coronavirus pandemic. I went into Bird's because I wanted a loaf of bread and some potted meat. She said to me, have you got a card? I did not know what she was on about. I said, oh, I have never used a card in my life. I always pay the old-fashioned way, which is how I was brought up, the 94-year-old told the Nottingham Post on Tuesday. Ms. Dalchin continued, I felt like I was being treated like a small child and being talked down to. None of the other shops have ever refused my money. There is a virus, I understand that. But a lot of elderly people do not use cards and are not into that technology. That's very true. Another senior citizen, 86-year-old Glynis Kirk, was also denied service because she would not use her bank card for such a small purchase. Mrs. Kirk, an acquaintance of Miss Dalchin, said it was disgusting to treat her I cannot pronounce anything tonight. Non-agenarian friend in that fashion. Lisa Clark, the manager of Bird's, told the regional newspaper, one of the arrangements is we could open if it is card only and because cash is dirty. With the coronavirus and pandemic, they want to minimize the risk to ourselves and customers. Major supermarkets continue to accept cash payments. Older Britons have borne the brunt of coronavirus restrictions, with many effectively imprisoned in their care homes to protect them from the Chinese virus after the country went into lockdown in March. Social care leaders feared the prolonged isolation from family could affect their mental health, with many grandparents saying they missed the hugs from their grandchildren. Oh, I feel the tears. That's sad. Just 3 weeks ago, lockdown restrictions were lifted, recommending that older Britons can visit their families again. And that's so hard. I know it was hard for me because my mom, they were very, very cautious with all this because my stepdad has a very, very compromised immune system and he gets ill very, very easily. So, I would take them stuff, leave it on the porch, and, didn't really have contact with them for a long period of time. And I miss that. I miss giving them a hug. It's awful. Anyway, I know it's something we've all faced. So, okay, now this has me really baffled. This is something that Donald Trump tweeted today. He said, support Patio Pizza and its wonderful owner, Guy Khalid, I can't pronounce the last name. Let's call him Guy G. Okay, in St. James, Long Island, New York. Great pizza. 3 exclamation marks. Now, St. James, Long Island. Well, there was another little island called St. James, Epstein's Island. And, of course, we know about pizza. I just believe this is a coded message. I really do. Because why would he be saying that about Long Island, New York? Great pizza. Support Patio Pizza and its wonderful owner in St. James, Long Island, New York. Great pizza. I don't know. Maybe you guys will look at that and say, I don't know. Doesn't mean anything to me. It's probably nothing. But knowing Donald Trump's penchant for trolling, and he always hides things in his tweets, and we know how Q communicates, and Q does likewise. Says things have meaning. He doesn't say things unless it means something. And I just think it could possibly be a code or something, or a message to someone. Don't know. But let's move on. And here we go. Yeah. Now, okay. This is 4 minutes and 51 seconds, but it's important. Maybe you've seen this already, but you probably haven't, and I think we need to. It says, big tech's out to get conservatives. It's time they face the consequences. So I am going to play this in its entirety. I don't normally play a clip that long, but I think this is important, and I think Jim Jordan is brilliant. Brilliant. I could really see him as president of the United States one day. I really could. He's a brilliant man. So let's listen to him. I'll make this bigger for the tiny phone people because, you got to remember them.
Conservatives. That's not a suspicion. That's not a hunch. That's a fact. July 20th, 2020, Google removes the homepages of Breitbart and the Daily Caller. Just last night, we learned Google has censored Breitbart so much traffic has declined 99%. June 16th, 2020, Google threatens to demonetize and ban the Federalist. April 19th, 2020, Google and YouTube announce a policy censoring the content that conflicts with recommendations of the World Health Organization. Now think about that. The World Health Organization, the organization that lied to us, the organization that chilled for China. And if you contradict something they say, they can say whatever they want. They can lie for China. They can chill for China. You say something against them, you get censored. June 29th, 2020, Amazon bans President Trump's account on Twitch. after he raises concerns about defunding the police. June 4th, 2020, Amazon bans a book critical of the coronavirus lockdowns written by a conservative commentator. May 27th, 2020, Amazon Smile won't let you give to the Family Research Council and the Alliance Defense Fund, but you can give to Planned Parenthood. Facebook, June 19th, 2020, takes down posts from President Trump's re-election campaign. November 1st, 2018, Facebook silences a pro-life organization's advertisement. May 19th, 2016, former Facebook employees admit Facebook routinely suppresses conservative views. And I haven't even mentioned Twitter, who we actually invited, Mr. Chairman. We asked for you guys to invite him as one of our witnesses. You guys said no. I haven't even mentioned them 2 years ago. They shadow banned 2 members of this committee.
True.
4 members of Congress were shadow banned 2 years ago. 435 in the House, 100 in the Senate, 535. Only 4. Only 4. Gates, Meadows, Nunes, Jordan. Only 4 get shadow banned. And of course, what did Mr. Dorsey tell us? He said, "Oh, it was just a glitch in our algorithm." I asked him, what'd you put in the algorithm? The names Gates, Meadows, Nunes, Jordan? I mean, if I had a nickel for every time I heard it was just a glitch, I wouldn't be as wealthy as our witnesses, but I'd be doing all right. We've heard that excuse time and time again. May 28th, Twitter censors President Trump's tweet on the riots in Minneapolis. May 29th, 2020, Twitter censors the White House for quoting the president's comments about the riots in Minneapolis. June 23rd, 2020, Twitter censors the president again for saying he'll enforce the rule of law against any autonomous zone in Washington, D.C. You can tweet all you want about the autonomous zone that happened in Seattle, but the president tweets that he's not going to have one in Washington, D.C. No, can't do that. You get banned, you get censored. Dozens of examples. Oh, I forgot one. Just last week, July 21st. This is what Twitter did. The leader of Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran, this is from the largest state sponsor of terrorism. Twitter allows this tweet, quote, "The Islamic Republic of Iran will never forget the martyrdom of Soleimani and will definitely strike a reciprocal blow in the United States." So you can threaten the citizens of this great country, the leader of the largest state sponsor of terrorism, that's just fine. But the president says he's not going to allow some autonomous zone in D.C. and he gets censored. All kinds of examples, most of them from this year, and that's what's I think critical for us all to understand. Most of them from this year and election year, and that's what concerns me and so many Americans, because we saw what Google did in 2016.
That's right.
We all know about the email the day after the election, where top executives at Google email chain where they talked about the silent donation Google made to the Clinton campaign. Now, thank goodness it wasn't enough, and in spite of their efforts to help Clinton, President Trump won. But we're 97 days before an election, and the power, as the previous chairman and ranking member have said, the power these companies have to impact what happens during an election, what American citizens get to see prior to their voting, is pretty darn important. That's why this committee hearing is important. Look, we all think the free market's great. We think competition is great. We love the fact that these are American companies. But what's not great is censoring people, censoring conservatives, and trying to impact elections. And if it doesn't end, there has to be consequences. There have to be consequences. That's what I'm concerned about, and I think what so many Americans are concerned about. So I look forward to hearing from our witnesses, Mr. Chairman.
So you can see why I wanted you all to hear that. Very good information. I mean, he always has his ducks in a row. Always. I don't know where that saying actually came from. Ducks in a row. Why would you want to have your ducks in a row? It's odd saying. I'm going to have to try to find out where that came from because it's odd. I don't care what anybody says. All right. Well, let's go back now because we've got more to get into. And let's look at this. All right. Google CEO admits company engages in manual censorship and blacklists. Well, nothing we didn't know already, but it's a good thing that they're, at least admitting it now. Does absolute power corrupt absolutely? Yes, absolutely it does. Without a doubt, and you don't have to look any further than what big tech has done when it comes to conservative speech on the internet. Thankfully, conservatives aren't taking this lying down, as Florida Republican Representative Matt Gaetz' scorching takedown of monolithic tech titan Google during a congressional hearing Wednesday proves. I want to know about search functions on Google because that's an area where I know Google has real market dominance. Oh, I hate when it does that. That's an area where I know Google has real market dominance, Gaetz said while questioning Google CEO Sundar Pichai. You said we don't manually intervene on any particular search result, Gaetz said in reference to a December 11th hearing in front of the House Judiciary Committee. But leaked memos obtained by the Daily Caller show that isn't true. In fact, those memos were altered December 3rd, just a week before your testimony, and they describe a deceptive news blacklist. Not that, no, that's not the name of a new CBS procedural show. That is allegedly the list that Google uses to decide what you, the reader, should and should not be privy to. Gaetz also brought up Google's fringe ranking and followed up with a quintessential question that big tech has yet to answer sufficiently. Who gets to decide what's fringe? Gaetz posited. The Daily Caller memos that Gaetz referred to outline a process that appears to be teeming with manual input as opposed to the self-functioning algorithmic method that Google would have you believe is involved in its blacklisting process. The beginning of the workflow starts when a website is placed on a watch list, which is used for monitoring of sites to determine if they violate the good neighbor policy. This watch list is maintained and stored by ARIS with access restricted to policy and enforcement specialists working on the good neighbor policy. Part of the memo reads, according to the Daily Caller, the investigation of the watch list is done in the tool Athena, the ARIS manual review tool, and takes signals from Search, WebSpan, and ARIS in order to complete reviews. So Google doesn't manually intervene in the blacklisting, but they reportedly have a manual review tool. How does that work? Pichai insisted that Google algorithmically uses its censorship tools and that the tech titan doesn't manually tune search results. Curiously, Pichai said that if a website or actor is deemed to be interfering in elections, Google has put that site on a list so it doesn't appear on search queries. When Gaetz pressed Pichai on whether or not that process is done manually, Pichai initially couldn't offer a substantive answer. When pressed further, Pichai made his bombshell admission. There is either a manual component or there is not a manual component. Which is it? Gaetz asked. For creating those lists, the process can involve a manual portion, Pichai replied, in stark contrast to his previous claim that there is no manual intervention. Gaetz then went for the jugular. It seems to be no coincidence that it's sites like Gateway Pundit, the Western Journal, American Spectre, Daily Caller, and Breitbart that receive the ire or the negative treatment as a consequence of your manual tooling, Gaetz said. The Republican representative wasn't done. You said that one of the reasons you maintain this manual tool is to stop election interference, Gaetz said. I believe it is in fact your company that is engaging in election interference. Pichai offered a flaccid defense of the characterization and tried to hide behind the law and known copyright violations as justification for his company's censorship tactics. Given that Pichai is undoubtedly an intelligent individual, his lacking defense should speak volumes about what big tech really thinks about conservatives and, on a broader scale, the lack of intelligence they think Americans have. They don't believe you have what it takes to discern fact from fiction, and instead of empowering the reader, they're just going to think for you. Good for Gaetz to hammer them on that absolute folly of a belief. Well, I don't care what they think. I really don't. I just care what they do. So if they are censoring, and they are, it's clear to everyone that they're censoring heavily, then something needs to be done about that. Because they are interfering in elections. Big time. Because they're cutting off your supply to information that could make up your mind who to vote for. if it's anything liberal, well, you can be sure that you'll see that. That'll be right up at the top of the search engines. But if it's conservative, it may be missing altogether from the search, or it'll be down so far in the results. This has got to stop. You know, they talk about foreign interference in our elections, but we've got domestic interference in our elections, big time. So I don't know. Unless that's fixed, no election will ever be fair. So I don't know, but I'm hoping this executive order is going to do something. I really, really hope, because it's very hard. It's hard for anybody that really wants to read conservative input. It's hard to find it. And it's hard for those of us that are putting content out there as well, because we are heavily censored and heavily punished, really. They take away our ability to monetize our content. They don't recommend our videos like they do with others, and it's difficult. Plus, they tend to knock off our, you'll have a bunch of people, and then all of a sudden you'll wake up one day and 1,000 of them are gone. And you know that 1,000 of them didn't just decide, oh, I don't want to listen to this anymore. Yeah. Anyway, I know you guys are all very aware of what's going on. All right. Now, let's look at this. This is interesting. All right. Yale epidemiologist Dr. Fauci running misinformation campaign against hydroxychloroquine. Well, raise your hand if you didn't know that. I think we all knew that. It's pretty obvious. Dr. Harvey Risch, noted Yale epidemiologist, has accused White House coronavirus task force member Dr. Anthony Fauci of waging a misinformation campaign against the drug hydroxychloroquine, claiming the medication has shown consistently encouraging results in treating COVID-19 when used properly. And it has. We all know that. So I'm not going to actually... I'm not going to go down and read through all this, because it's something that we're well aware of, that this is being censored. But I did want it noted that a Yale epidemiologist, very well respected, has claimed that, look, he's giving out misinformation. So, but will he be paid attention to? No. And he needs to be careful, because they'll ruin his career. He'll be kicked out. Well, look what they did to the black doctor from Nigeria. I can't remember her name. Was it Stella something? Anyway, I mean, what they've put her through because of her opinion, and it's not just her opinion, it's based on the people that she's treated. All of them have recovered. That's pretty significant. All right. Well, let's go on. I'm going to have to pick and choose now, because we're getting close to the time, and I'd like this to get uploaded and processed in a reasonable amount of time so that you guys can see it tonight. All right. Yes, and have you heard this? Over 100 police agencies have ditched their agreement to guard the DNC convention. 100 police agencies. So don't tell me that they aren't fully aware of what's happening. It's the Democrats that want to defund the police. They tend to like the anarchy, I guess. I guess they like their cities burned. But yeah, 100 police agencies have refused to guard them. So good for them. Okay, and John Brennan, his access to classified information is finally blocked. That's good news. That's a long time coming. So that's something else. We won't go in and read it all, but I think that's important for us to know. And yeah, this is interesting, and I think that I'm going to look at this next. Nolte, New York Times says sacred sacred site of George Floyd's death spiraling into chaos, constant gunshots every night. Well, yeah, I don't find that surprising, do you? The site of George Floyd's death is now a no-go zone for police and a crime-infested nightmare for local residents, reports the far left New York Times. 2 months after Floyd died while in police custody, where he died remains a sacred space and a no-go zone for officers, per the Times. At night, the Times admitted the space is increasingly a battleground with shootings and drug overdoses. Andrea Jenkins, a member of the Minneapolis City Council, who called for the police to be disbanded while taxpayers shelled out tens of thousands of dollars for her private security, described the area to the Times. There are constant gunshots every night. Emergency vehicles can't get in. Disabled people are not able to get access to their medications, their appointments, their food deliveries, etc. It's a very challenging situation. A local resident said things are so bad at night, there's a bullet hole in the windshield of her car. She wants to call police to protect her 3 young children, but knows there is no point because the police can't come. Obviously, any kind of police presence would almost certainly start a riot. Things are so bad, a doctor set up an ad hoc medical station to treat victims of criminal violence. My nightmare world after sunset. I have taken care of double gunshot wounds, drug overdoses. One night, a man wounded by gunfire drove a bicycle past the barricades, she said, before collapsing outside her tent and yelling, "I'm shot, I'm shot." After the pregnant woman was killed nearby in early July and having dodged gunfire herself, Dr. Kawecki limited the hours of her medic station from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Of course, violent criminals understand this, which is why they're flocking to the area and turning it into an unlivable war zone, because this is what happens when there's no police presence. Nevertheless, these fools refuse to surrender. They still want to reimagine public safety without trained police. I'm sorry, but this republic of ours is almost 250 years old. Western civilization is thousands of years old, and we are not going to reinvent the wheel. We've tried the whole soft on crime approach, and all it yielded were decades of urban blight starting in the 60s. Then along came New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani, a policing philosophy called broken windows, and with it decades of decreasing rates of violent crime no one thought possible. What's more, and this is something no one on the left wants you to know, shootings of unarmed people, including blacks, have dropped dramatically over the past few years. That black and white deaths at the hands of police officers are almost perfectly representative of the country's racial makeup involving police interactions, that the black imprisonment rate has been dramatically shrinking since 2006, that blacks and whites are equally satisfied with their local police. So we had just hit what you might call a kind of sweet spot, that place where through trial and error, by finessing this policy and tweaking that policy, we were having our cake and eating it too. We had low crime rates and issues involving overly aggressive or poorly trained police, almost exclusively in cities where Democrat-run police departments were falling. That's all gone now. And it is all gone by design and for only one reason. Trump was improving the lives of Black America. The black unemployment rate hit a recorded low. Wages were on the rise. Opportunity zones were having an effect, and the push was on to liberate poor, predominantly black Americans from the scourge of urban government-run schools. That had to stop, and the death of George Floyd was the perfect excuse. Yes, George Floyd's death was a terrible thing, but Democrats and the media exploiting an unfortunate death to wage a war on Black America is an abomination. Very, very well written and true. So, let's see what else we can knock out before our time's up. Yeah, let's look at this. Soros has pumped $50 million so far into 2020 Democrat election campaigns. A report from the Washington Free Beacon notes that billionaire elitist George Soros has pumped more than $50 million into Democrats' election campaigns for 2020, a record amount, and around $30 million more than he spent in 2016, with over 3 months still to go. I guess he's not messing around this time. The report notes that Soros created a democracy PAC in 2019 and that Federal Election Commission figures show the PAC distributed almost 17 million in the last quarter alone. This man, he looks demonic. He really does. I mean, he looks evil. And you can tell, like, people that are really good and do good things and, you know, they're loving people, you can see it in their face and their eyes. The eyes are the window of the soul. You look into these eyes and that's a nightmare. I don't know. Anyway, the report notes that Soros, okay, we read that. This means that Soros has pumped 48 million to the leftist groups. George Soros in Davos 2020 election will determine fate of the world. That's why there's so much warfare, and that's what it is. Whether it's asymmetrical warfare, what have you, psychological, that's what we're under. That figure is more than Amazon, Facebook, Boeing, and Google's parent company, Alphabet, the report notes. The report adds that Soros has pledged $4 million directly to Democratic campaigns and committees outside of the PAC. This means that $22 million Soros spent in 2016 has been more than doubled this time around. I wonder if he thinks he's going to take his money with him. It's not going to mean anything. He's going to die. They're going to put him in a box, and he's not going to take anything with him. Maybe, you know, the clothes they buried him in. They'll probably cremate him. He probably won't even burn. I'm serious. All right. I'm just saying that, you know, he's so evil, but in the end, he'll face the same fate that every other human on this earth has faced, and that's death. And I wouldn't want to have to stand, you know, I wouldn't want to have to stand before the Lord having done what he has done. I'm just saying. All right. The direct $4 million includes hundreds of thousands going to the DNC-led Democratic Grassroots Victory Fund, the Nancy Pelosi Victory Fund. Yeah, she needs more money, right. And the Biden Victory Fund. According to the figures, the fact that Soros diverts the money through the PAC and groups within the Open Society Foundation networks means that his name is kept off the top of donation lists. However, anyone taking more than a cursory look at where Democratic money is coming from can see that Soros is funding a huge chunk of the operation. Say that again. So I'm not going to go on with that, but well, wait. It says the interview was accompanied by a press release from the Open Society declaring that the largest share of this support, $150 million, will be through a set of 5-year grants to Black-led justice organizations that help to create and now sustain the momentum towards racial equality. Right. Okay. Let's go on now. See what else we can get. Some of these I may... Oh, not surprisingly, the UN is siding with Antifa. Let's take a look at that. The UN sides with Antifa and intervenes in U.S. domestic affairs, just as we warned for the past couple years. The United Nations has decided to side with Antifa and intervene in U.S. domestic affairs, condemning President Donald Trump for defending American cities against left-wing terrorism. Liz Throssell, a UN human rights spokeswoman, warned that unidentified federal agents are illegally detaining peaceful protesters. Peaceful protesters. You know, it's getting funny, actually. It's actually getting funny when they call them peaceful protesters. Anyway, which may give rise to arbitrary detention and other human rights violations. The authorities should ensure that federal and local security forces deployed are properly and clearly identified and would use force only when necessary, proportionately, and in accordance with the international standards, she said. Well, you know, it's kind of hard for them to identify their vehicles when every single police vehicle they come across, they break the windows, they smash it, they burn it. Yeah, I'd be running around in unmarked cars as well. The UN did not condemn the mass violence towards law enforcement initiated by left-wing terror groups. The UN did not denounce the human rights abuses that Antifa and Black Lives Matter militants have inflicted throughout America, which has become a stealth form of genocide towards whites. Instead, the UN is right on time to defend the left-wing terror, to aid and abet the destruction of the United States from within, and to tear down the rule of law in America. Not the first time either. It's now apparent that foreign militaries and intelligence operations are behind the upheaval occurring in American cities, and these bad actors and governing bodies will clearly take advantage of the upheaval to take control and impose their will over the United States. As federal agents try to save their country from violent left-wing mobs, will the UN send troops into the U.S. to take out the federal agents to occupy America and to let terror reign? No one wants to see federal troops, Homeland Security officers, and Border and Custom patrols going to war in American cities, but the Democrat governors and mayors have left the federal government with no choice but to intervene in strategic and powerful ways that restore law and order. Federal agents have adapted new strategies to avoid doxing and to avoid large confrontations in the city streets, protecting innocent lives as agents single out, detain, and prosecute violent criminals hiding within the mob. The inner cities are burning, and law enforcement is being overrun by racially charged left-wing anarchist mobs. Portland, Oregon Mayor Ted Wheeler has stood with the arsonists, looters, violent criminals, and domestic terrorists, watching his city go up in flames. Standing with the terrorists, Wheeler has called Trump's federal help an explicit abuse of power that puts federal officers and Oregonians in danger. He publicly stated that federal law enforcement should leave our city. These weak Democrat leaders have become the problem, openly permitting thugs to attack law enforcement, burn down businesses, and threaten people's lives. These unrestrained human rights abuses are being openly encouraged by mayors like Ted Wheeler. The streets of Portland look like a war zone as state and federal property comes under threat. UN turns a blind eye toward widespread human rights abuses initiated by Antifa and Black Lives Matter. 3 federal officers who were defending the Hatfield Federal Courthouse were attacked by Antifa rioters. Department of Homeland Security official Richard Klein confirmed that the officers were attacked by lasers. The officers have sustained permanent eye injuries from the attack. When officers responded to put out these fires, glass bottles were thrown and lasers, which can cause permanent blindness, were shone in their eyes, said Director Klein. We have 3 officers who currently have eye injuries, and they may not recover sight in those eyes from those laser attacks. Antifa are also using commercial fireworks to permanently injure or kill law enforcement. Antifa has also used doxing to punish and intimidate law enforcement officers and their families. Armed rioters sometimes emerge out of mobs and single out motorists sticking a gun to their chest. The UN has nothing to say about human rights abuses like these, which have gone on for multiple weeks across America. As soon as U.S. federal agents move in to restore law and order, the UN is quick to condemn, fueling the flames of civil unrest and domestic terror throughout American cities. Well written, well spoken, and egregious. That's what's happening. And let's just see. Now, it is 11:35 and I'm over an hour, and I think I'm going to stop for now because I think I can pick up on some of these tomorrow. And by tomorrow, we'll have lots more news to look at because there's always more news. And I'm going to... Yes, okay, I'm going to hit on one more thing, and this is the last thing for tonight anyway. Warning to all Americans, the unfolding events are following a scripted pattern to bring down America. A Yugoslavian woman has issued a powerful warning to all Americans, eloquently describing how all the events that you see unfolding in America right now are scripted, emotionally charged events designed to turn citizens against each other to invoke a deadly civil war that will bring down the nation. Out of the chaos, the communists will stage a revolt to attempt to seize power, turning America into a communist regime run by genocidal lunatics who are willing to see tens of millions of people killed as long as they can rise to power. The Yugoslavian woman saw the exact same script played out in her own country of Yugoslavia. The hatred pushed by the media, the division of the people, the turning of citizens against each other, followed by shooting, violence, media hysteria, and revolution. It's all part of the same George Soros script for fomenting revolution to take down a nation, and it's been carried out with the full complicity of the treasonous mainstream media, which is the enemy of America. This is why George Soros and corporate America are funding Black Lives Matter, because they need Black Lives Matter to invoke a violent response from Trump or patriots so that CNN can claim peaceful protesters are being shot by Trump supporters. Do not fall for the trap. Hold your fire. Whoever shoots first loses. Practice trigger discipline, which is something that the NFAC can't seem to master. It is crucial that you listen to this woman's warning and share this video everywhere. Well, let's listen here.
This is my message for the greatest country in the world.
Now, this is 15 minutes. So I think instead of playing this, I think I am going to, and I can't make it bigger either, so it's hard for you tiny phone people to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the link to this article so that you can see and listen to this woman who has already gone through this once. And I think that it's important to do so. All right, and also this website's pretty interesting. It's called Humans Are Free. They've got a lot of interesting things on here. I can't say that I agree with everything because I haven't read everything, but they do have some interesting things. So that's what I'm going to do, and I think for now I am going to sign off. Boy, I'm all off kilter here, aren't I? Oh well. All right, well, I will be back. And I don't know if that's a warning or not, but I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much, those of you that support this channel. I really appreciate that. Those of you who are longtime Patreon subscribers and donate via coffee, it is very, very much appreciated. So thank you guys so much. You guys have a wonderful evening. I hope you sleep well, stay safe, and keep seeking truth. Good night.